Right, so we're at a stage now where you've had a few lessons on painting and you've only got 2 more single lessons left on the painting before we move on to using a different media. And the next media we're going to use is going to be the pencil crayon. So depending on where you're at this halfway point will be dependent on what you do today. So if your work looks a little bit like this one, you really need to get these little segments finished in the paint in the next 2 lessons. But some people, like mine, are a lot further ahead, like this one. So they've got less to do. So they're going to have an Aspire activity to do today, which I'll show you in this video. So what we want to do is aim to finish in the next 2 lessons all the base coat of paint first of all. So that's our aim. So on this one, I've got my light and some medium tones. So I know today that in my plan, in my head, I'm going to do medium and maybe next lesson do a little bit of dark as well. So I'm going to take some of my medium colours and I'm going to start to colour match up and get those on really quickly to apply with my sort of paler shades of colour. I'm going to turn my paper so my brush is in the main area I want the paint. Don't forget, if you're doing a small area, use the small brush, and if you're doing a big area, you might want to use the bigger brush. I'm going to try and hide my grey photocopy lines today. I'm going to wash my brush and I'm just going to use the water to then try and blend that in to that lighter colour there. So going back and forth. So for anyone who was unsure of how to do the blending, there's a little reminder for you from last week. One thing I want to try and do today, now I've got my base coat on, is I really want to try my best to do some curvy tones to make my shapes look 3D to get those higher grades. So I'm going to take some of these darker shades and on my rounded shapes, start to add those as though it's a shadow at the bottom and then blend that out into the paler shade above. So making that quite dark. And even with paint, we can do curved tones. Remember to take your time, and that being patient is a big thing with this. Okay, you're going to be working into this as well with other media as we go along. What I might want to do is I might want to start to go around some of these shapes, and I might want to create my own shades of blue, hiding those darker lines to make them look more painterly. And then use the water to fade and drag that out. So now what we can do is, if you have got most of your medium and dark, is we can also use these special crayons to help us with our colour blending even more. But what you have to do is you can't work into a wet area, you must work into a dry area. So if you've been struggling to do that and you think you're done, you can then work into these crayons like you would a normal pencil crayon. Press heavy, slowly press lighter to fade that out. And what will happen then if we put a little bit of water on there, is it will then turn into paint. And that's another way we can add extra detail and blend into our work today. And these are great for showing curvy tones in 3D form, because even in our little pale areas here, I can add on some of these curvy shapes a bit of shadow, and then using a very thin brush, blend that out into the white to make it look like a little shade of colour coming through on there. So we're trying to hide all of our grey pencil lines today. We're looking for areas that have got curved shapes, so we can do curvy tones. And we are blending everything through before we start our next steps. So up here, I could do some nice curvy tones with the crayon, and then turn that into a nice little bit of blending on there as well.